here looking for a Russian scandal. For months, it's been basically the only thing anyone in Washington talked about. Many people were certain it would end in impeachment and prison terms.
I've come to conclude that Trump has the Kremlin clan surrounding him. There's more to be learned about it. I believe there's been collusion.
It's starting to smell more and more like collusion to, I think, the public.
We saw cold, hard evidence of the Trump campaign, indeed the Trump family, eagerly intending to collude possibly with Russia.
Well, it's finally happened. We have a Russia scandal. But instead of proving collusion between the Trump campaign and the government of Vladimir Putin, this one reveals deep wrongdoing in the Obama administration, and it's real. We've known for several years that Russian money was flowing to the Clinton family and the foundations during the exact same period the Obama administration approved the Russian acquisition of 20% of this country's strategic uranium reserves. But now, new reporting from the Hill newspaper reveals that as early as 2009, the FBI was investigating secret Russian efforts to get the deal done by bribing Americans. And yet somehow the public and even key officials were never told about that investigation as they made the decision to allow the deal to go forward. At least one American businessman says he directly witnessed Russian efforts to convince the Clintons to approve that deal. The businessman says he was blocked from publicly telling Congress what he knew because he was ordered to remain silent by Eric Holder's Justice Department. It's a remarkable story and potentially a very significant one. Peter Schweitzer originally broke this story in a book called Clinton Cash. He's been covering it ever since, and he joins us now. Peter, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Tucker. Thanks for having me.
So this is a kind of confusing coda to the story. The person who apparently has firsthand evidence that the Russian government tried to suborn the Clintons to get them to support the deal has been prevented from speaking even to Congress. How can that be, and what's the justification for that?
Well, that's a great question, Tucker. What we know, apparently, based on the reporting, is that he has been put under a gag order by the Department of Justice and has been told that if he speaks about this publicly, not only will he face financial penalties in the form of a fine, that he could actually go to jail, that his liberty would be at risk, which is mystifying to me. I mean, why do we not want to know the details about this? That's what's so troubling, is it reeks of cover-up. It just stinks. There's no other word for it.
As a legal matter, how can the Justice Department from a previous administration tell the Congress of the United States, elected officials, that they can't talk to an American citizen about allegations of bribery that put our national security at risk? How does that work?
Well, it really shouldn't work and can't work. And what I mean is the Department of Justice today, under President Trump, Attorney General Sessions, could tomorrow come back and say we are removing this gag order, that we believe that there's a compelling national interest to know. We want this individual to testify before Congress. We want the public to know exactly what went on. So this is not something that's unbreakable, but it just simply takes a request from the Department of Justice to remove that gag order. If that gag order is not removed, I think it's doubtful this businessman's going to want to go public because he doesn't want to be put in legal jeopardy.
So back to the core question, the approval of this deal, Uranium One, purchased by a Russian company, giving the Russians, in effect, control of 20% of our uranium supply. The office of then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said basically she had nothing to do with the approval.
Right.
Is that
right.
true? How could that be true?
It's not true, and it's interesting with the Podesta emails that came out, the leaked Podesta emails, what you find is how they tried to cover this up. One of the assistant secretaries, a gentleman named Fernandez, came forward and said, oh, I was the one that really made the decision. She was not involved in that decision. But if you look in the Podesta emails, you see exactly how it went down. Fernandez is communicating with John Podesta and is saying, let me know what I can say, how I can be helpful. So she was intimately involved in this decision, and this is the important thing to keep in mind, Tucker. Hillary Clinton in 2008 when she ran for president, went into detail. She actually had a plan on toughening CFIUS, this body that would approve these kind of controversial deals. So she's very knowledgeable on this subject, and she's a hawk on this issue. So for her to pretend like, well, I don't really know what was going on, I was not involved, just stretches credulity, and that's one of the reasons we need to have an investigation. And really, to this point, Tucker, we have not had a congressional hearing on this. We've not had a grand jury as far as we know. It's just shocking to me that there's been no investigation on this whatsoever.
Just to be clear, the dots that we're connecting are not very far apart. So the chairman of this uranium company, Uranium One, is also on the board of the Clinton Foundation and a close friend of the Clintons. John Podesta's company, the Podesta Group, lobbied on behalf of this company, Uranium One. Am I getting these facts wrong?
You're exactly right, Tucker. Here's the bottom line. As this deal was coming for approval in 2010, the Clinton Foundation received from 9 shareholders in this uranium company that was sold to the Russians. 9 of them all of a sudden decided they were going to donate large amounts of money to the Clinton Foundation, more than $145 million. And by the way, a lot of those donations were never declared publicly by the Clintons. They were hidden. So it stinks in so many levels. Here's the other important national security implication, Tucker. This deal was predicated on the fact that when the Russians got control of this uranium, it would not be exported out of the United States. That was part of the agreement. The New York Times has now reported that that's not true. Yellow cake from these uranium mines are being exported out of the United States, and we don't even really know where they're going. That in and of itself demands investigation.
Yeah, about 20% of it, they've reported, has gone to some unknown destination, which is ominous. Peter Schweitzer, again, the person who broke this story in the beginning and has been on it ever since. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.
So questions of bribery aside, why exactly did the Obama administration allow a foreign rival, Russia, to control 20% of American uranium reserves? Nancy Soderberg was an ambassador to the United Nations and Deputy National Security Advisor at the White House under President Clinton, and she joins us tonight. Ambassador, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
So leaving aside the questions of the DOJ investigation, why in the world would Hillary Clinton's State Department and the Obama administration sign off on a deal that allows a rival power to control 20% of our uranium reserves?
Well, these business deals are ones that had review of 9 different agencies, and they agreed that since it was going to stay in the country, that it would be an acceptable way to keep our uranium safe here and under appropriate controls. And I think that the reporter that it's been gone and yellow cake has been really disproven. And Tucker, I really think you got to. You're digging at the bottom of the barrel here.
May I stop you there? So you think it was a good idea for the Obama administration to give Russia, our primary adversary in the world, according to the Democrats, control of 20% of our uranium? Why would that be a good idea? I'm sincere. Why is that a good idea?
I'm not familiar with the details of this particular uranium deal, but we have trade in uranium with appropriate controls throughout the last 40 years, bipartisan. Both Republican and Democrat governments feel that we can keep the appropriate controls. And the bigger issue here is this whole issue is fake news in terms of an investigation. It's been shut. In fact, all President Trump has to do is ask his current Deputy Attorney General and Deputy Head of the FBI, who looked at this and closed it in 2015. So this is fake news trying to divert from what is the issue.
But I'm actually not engaging in fake. Okay, that you may have that view, but I'm not engaging in that. I'm asking you about the policies.
Why are we talking about something that happened almost 10 years ago?
I'll tell you. Actually, I can answer. Wait, hold on. This isn't what stopped. It didn't happen almost 10 years ago.
Invading in our own democracy here. We should be talking about that.
If we are as concerned about Russia as you say we should be, as you just said we ought to be, then why wouldn't we be concerned about the fact that, according to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, reported in the New York Times, some large percentage of this uranium in the form of yellow cake has been exported to unknown countries? What countries do you think those are? Switzerland?
I have no idea. And
okay, but why? Wait, but hold on. Why isn't that?
I'm not in the government right now, so I'm not looking at
hold on. But you have
the
no
security
problem.
piece of this.
Okay, but hold on. You've got no problem saying they hacked our democracy. Why aren't you concerned about that? You blow past it like it's.
Look, I think what I'm more concerned about right now, I'm concerned about any breach of our national security. And if there's a problem here, we need to investigate it and look at it. And that's what both presidents, Democrat and Republican, do. What I'm more concerned about is the invasion of our democracy by that very power you're trying to go back 10 years ago. What did the Russians do in our investigation right now, and why are
But it's
the
not
GOP,
10 years ago. We're not talking about Facebook ads they bought. We're talking.
No, what I want to know, and what your show should be talking about,
is filibustering. Actually, an important point.
Why are the Republicans in this Congress trying to cut off the investigation of Russia's role in our democracy? That's real news.
But by the way, I'm not. You know what? I'll grant you that point. I don't care. I want to talk about the fact that uranium is being mined in the American West and is controlled by the Russian government, the very one that you say poses a threat to our democracy. Why shouldn't every American sit bolt upright and say, what? How the hell did they get control of that? No, I'm serious. It's not 10 years ago. It's right now. It's happening right now.
Well, first of all, I don't think they control the uranium. It's under very tight controls. It's under very security controls.
But it's not
My
under
understanding
tight controls.
is they own some of
the U.S. government.
They own some of the company that owns it. And if it's a problem, then we need to have the president look into that. He's in charge right now, and President Trump should look into it.
Would you have signed off on that deal? Honestly, knowing what you know about Russia, you don't think it's just prima facie insane to give a country that seeks our destruction control of our uranium supply?
This is a deal that was almost 10 years ago.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you
about the deal.
No, that's not true.
It was 2010.
Okay.
It's almost 2018.
But it is ongoing to this day.
I think, look,
and Bill Clinton brokered it. You don't think?
Look, we have.
No, but that's not speculation. That's a fact.
All of us take very seriously the control of uranium, plutonium, and our stockpiles. Oh, absolutely, I do.
Oh, really? Then why are you blowing past my questions, which are real?
I've said several times, these types of deals, and I'm not familiar with this particular one, have very, very tight controls. They're reviewed by 9 agencies.
But you are factually wrong in this case because we don't know where the yellow cake is going. That's been reported by the New York Times. It's not something I'm making up in right-wing land. That's a real thing. So why aren't you upset about it?
Because I haven't seen that report, and from what I know, these have very tight controls on them. And if there's a problem, then the Trump administration needs to immediately look at it.
I agree.
What I'm concerned about is Congress doing Russia's bidding by trying to stop the investigation of Russia's collusion in our elections.
But this is
why are we doing that?
We have an independent counsel investigation that's proceeding at pace that has unlimited, but they can't stop it.
Why are the Republicans in Congress trying to do Russia's bidding and stop the investigation?
I'm a little surprised that you are resorting to political bumper stickers and talking points, and I'm asking you about a policy that affects our national security.
That's a real issue right now. No, you're trying to dig back in history to deflect from what's going on in today's history.
It's ongoing. It's happening right now.
And what's happening right
You're the
now
former
is,
ambassador. Why am I the policy person in this conversation? I don't care what the Republicans do.
I've said we need to address the security of this deal that was almost 10 years old, and we will. And the President of the United States has the power to do that. What I'm concerned about is what's happening today in Russia's interference in our elections.
This is happening today. They have control right now.
And why are the Republicans in Congress trying to cut that?
Whatever. They have no control. It's an independent counsel investigation. They can't stop it.
They're trying to cut the funding off of that investigation.
So you're worried about Facebook ads, and I'm worried about the dissemination of yellow cake. I'll let our viewers decide which is more important.
The American people need to know what happened in our election.
Right, okay.
And that's the bottom line.
All right, Ambassador, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. The Hollywood backlash against sexual harassment has claimed a new head, this time at Amazon Pictures. We've got details on that next.